My hope is that everyone will listen to this book because I think that most Americans are like I was when I started out researching this topic, which is that they have heard about global warming, but they're not really sure whether to be concerned or not. And I think that what scientists are trying to tell us, and what I hope comes through in this book, is that it's something we should be very concerned about, and we should be particularly concerned because it will affect our children. What we do today will determine their future, the future of our kids and the future of our grandchildren. Global warming is a term that's very loosely defined. Some people use the term global warming, some people use the term climate change, and there's good reason to use both of them. Because global warming won't just produce warming, and it could perversely, in some parts of the world, as I talk about in the book, produce cooling. But global warming roughly refers to the man-made warming. There's always natural cycles of cooling and warming that have been going on since the world began. But what global warming refers to is the addition of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere and the warming that results from that. And climate models have become increasingly sophisticated and increasingly accurate and can predict the warming at any given level of CO2 in the air. And when you look at those figures, they're very frightening. I think if you talk to scientists, they tend to be more concerned than average people, and that should give people real pause. The people who look at the numbers, one of the things that has really, a field that's really developed over the last, say, 20 years is the field of paleoclimatology, which is to look back into the past through ice cores and cores from the bottom of the ocean. And people have reconstructed the climate going back millions of years now. And what they see is very sobering, that the climate can switch from one mode to another very quickly. And some of those mechanisms are not understood. But people need to be aware that just because things have been the way they are for the last few centuries is no guarantee that they will be like that in the future. And we are tampering. A very famous quote about global warming comes from a scientist who works at Columbia's Lamont Doherty lab. And his quote is, "Climate is an angry beast, and we are poking it with a stick." And I think that's a very evocative quote. If you know that a system is not entirely stable, you shouldn't go around tampering with it in mindless ways. People sometimes say, why should I be concerned about global warming? Let's say it gets a little bit warmer. Well, that's not so bad. But my response to that is usually to ask people if they like to eat, because everything that we eat is a crop. It's grown somewhere in the world. As weather patterns change, places that are now the breadbasket of the US or the breadbasket of Europe will no longer support those crops. There's serious risk of drought in a lot of parts of the world, while other parts of the world will get more rainfall, flooding. I think that people have been told about global warming for 2 decades now, I suppose, and what I really tried to do in this book was go to parts of the world where people are not just being told about it and warned about it, but are living it. And those places tend to be in the north. And, for example, Native American communities up in Alaska are being very dramatically affected right now. And what I've really tried to convey in the book is global warming is not something that's hypothetical. It's something that's real. And if you go out into many parts of the world, you can see the changes that are being wrought. There are reasons to believe that the world is waking up. And I talk about this in the book. Once again, the U.S. is not participating, but the rest of the world, and certainly the rest of the industrialized world, is participating in the Kyoto Protocol, which is only a first step towards dealing with the problem, but at least it is a first step. And I also talk in the book about how many communities are taking action and are not waiting for the federal government, which seems to be sort of stuck in some kind of inaction mode, but are moving forward. I went to visit Burlington, Vermont, where they've really done a lot to cut CO2 emissions. So there are reasons to be hopeful that people are waking up and taking action. The fact that global warming is making severe storms more frequent means that disasters like Katrina and Rita will, in the coming years, become increasingly commonplace. Jan Egeland, the emergency relief coordinator for the United Nations, called the hurricanes a wake-up call for everybody, and he was right. The question now is, will that call be heeded?